So we'll be back at this time. We'll move on to item H. Ordinances, resolutions, and zoning. Item 1, discussion action, resolution 28, 25, 26, supporting the city of Elephant Butte's efforts to annex the city of Elephant Butte's wastewater treatment plant. City Manager Whitehead.
Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the commission. In front of you today, you have a resolution in support of Elephant Butte. The city of Elephant Butte has requested that they be able to annex where their wastewater treatment plant is. So at some point when the city proposed an annexation of land, which you could do that's in the county, the boundaries extend past Cuchillo Creek in that bottom section. And so we've not surveyed it, so my numbers will be approximate. There's probably 20 acres down there that would comprise some land that's within the developments within the Turtleback Mountain Resort, which is, again, from the zoning perspective would be, kind of under the Elephant Butte zoning rules. And so now that particular area is under the city of TRC. But the primary issue is that their wastewater treatment plant is actually inside the city of Truth and Consequences. Attorney Rubin and I have met with staff at Elephant Butte to understand. We could not find, I'll paraphrase through the attorney, but we could not find in statute a law that says how you de-annex, or if the process could potentially happen if there was anything in law. So it would appear that Elephant Butte has some hurdles to overcome. There are some processes. We think there's a legislative path that would allow them to go forward. But it really, what we're saying here in this resolution is we have no reason to think the action would be adverse to the city. There's one home in that area that potentially could be zoned potentially different. Otherwise, there's nothing in the area. So what we would say is we support their efforts. We allow them to develop a map, a strategy, a plan, and then they would be required to go forward to accomplish their annexation of our city in that particular area. So with that, I would stand for question.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's important to note, what's going on is the plant actually is owned by Elephant Butte. It just happens to be within our boundaries. That's the point. It's not like it's not our land. They own it. It just happens to be within our boundaries. So that's kind of like an important thing.
How did that happen that they built that plant on our in our zone, in our property?
That I don't know. I guess that happened some time ago. I guess. I don't know.
Mayor Pro Tem, we didn't research the historical value, right? I would say, remember, let me also point out, we own a landfill that now is inside the city limits of Elephant Butte, right? And it gets a little confusing because people would say, well, that has to follow the city rules. It doesn't, right? It's just a piece of property that the city of Truth and Consequences owns in the boundaries of Elephant Butte. In this particular case, the city of Elephant Butte owns property inside the boundaries of the city of TRC. So
the property and the building and the property belong to them. It's just inside the city.
It's just inside our city limits. And so technically, as you read from the resolution, they have to comply with two jurisdictions, right? Their wastewater plant has to live with the city of TRC's rules, where the distribution system of their wastewater plant deals with the city of Elephant Butte. And then likewise, with the development at Turtleback Mountain, they would have to comply with, in that particular zone, the city of TRC, and then everything else is through the city of Elephant Butte. So this would kind of allow them to organize, get the private property owner in one jurisdiction, and then get their plant in one jurisdiction.
And then with this letter of support, can we say we will write this letter of support and approve it, but we also want you to take some of our sewer customers?
Well, if you read the resolution, we tried to be ahead of you. We try to think of that. And so we in the resolution, it says that our efforts are to continue to support and work through those issues. Because again, as I've shared with the commission, I think being able to deal with wastewater issues on the back station, being able to move them there is a possible solution to that problem in a reasonable cost to our citizens and a benefit to them. So we included that in there. And then likewise, we also think that there's a possibility of partnering in solid waste where we could do two plants similar to what we have versus building one big plant and change. So we've asked for that in the resolution. And I believe, Mayor, you might want to comment on your conversations with their mayor on this particular issue.
Yeah, I just wanted to keep the door open with their mayor so that we can have discussions down the road, because we know that our transfer station is on the edge of maximizing itself or maximizing out, and there'll have to be some changes down the road. And if that's the case, it's a multi-million-dollar situation for us. And if we can extend the life of our transfer station, because we have another transfer station that's close that is able to take some of that refuse, it might be a benefit for both of our communities. So we'll continue those discussions and hopefully we'll have something productive down the road in that regard.
And when I was asked to give my opinion about the drafting, the actual wording of the resolution, I felt it's important to have the last whereas included, which is the bottom of the first page, because I'm making the point here that we're, it's really the balls in the Elton Fuse Court that really carry the ball to do this, to do what needs to be done. There are some strict statutory requirements when you're trying to do an annexation, and we're not making any representation. This resolution is what's needed. We're just showing our support, but it's up to the city of Elton to do what's necessary.
I guess the last thing I have to say, and it's kind of a question to it, but is that it lessens our liability concerns by giving the city of Elephant Butte that property back, because I don't want to own the land that their facility is on and having those liabilities. So
I think the same thing, but I think it is in your best interest that we consider this. Yes.
Mayor, let me just point out that your comment, though, we don't own the land at all. It would just be the liability that would come with it being in our jurisdiction and our governmental responsibility to manage a second wastewater plant within our boundary. The land is, we're not giving away the land. We're not selling anything. There's nothing changing hand other than the boundaries of jurisdiction.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's true.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2825/26, supporting the city of Elephant Butte's efforts to annex the city of Elephant Butte wastewater treatment plant.
I second. I have a motion, a second. Doris?
Honorable Ingo Hopner.
Aye.
Honorable Amanda Forster.
Aye.
Honorable Rob Pastor.
Aye.
Honorable Jessica Mitchell.
Aye.
Carries unanimously. Great, thank you. Item H2, discussion action resolution number 29/2526, authorizing and approving the submission of a completed application for financial assistance and project approval to the New Mexico Finance Authority. Mr. Whitehead, you're up again.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, members of the commission. Before you on both items 2 and 3 are going to be similar. First, before we start with them, I do owe the clerk an apology. The resolution, if you read both of them, the resolutions are exactly the same. And the resolutions are for the item that we took action on the last time, which was the street sweeper. I had committed to get this to the clerk, and I was a little bit late in getting that document so we could change that. But nonetheless, both resolutions' purpose would be just to allow us and allow staff to make another application to the New Mexico Finance Authority. I've been working with the chief. It's been an interest of his to try to figure out a way to get some police units into the city, and we've had some dialogue. And then as I've worked through the process for the street sweeper, I made a presentation to the Finance Authority to find out if we would qualify for police cars as well. And the same funding would work. So what we're asking for here, the resolution would allow us to make an application. The chief his first goal would be to try to get 4 units, but what I've asked him to do, and he's provided me a list, and I have that with me here, how we could create a rotation of units so that we could potentially pay off a tranche of police vehicles in a short period, 3 years, right? We would use, we're just about ready to pay off the last loan payment on our police department gross receipt tax. So we'll have no debt. So we would reauthorize that as the payment source. And then how would we be able to pay those cars off, have them have a life, and then buy another tranche of cars in a period of 3 or 4 years. So before you approve the purchase and what we would do, we would come back to you with a presentation on, well, how many units we have, what the life of those units, and then how we would use this process to create a rotation of cars that we could continue to bring in so that they could kind of keep current. The chief provided me with a list of vehicles, and I would tell you right now, we have 4 officers driving in units that have 190,000 miles on them. So we do have 2 new units that came in last year from a grant, and then most of the units have somewhere between 40 and 60,000 miles. Every officer does seem to be in a unit. We have our 16th officer, which we just filled. We're finally at full capacity, so we might be short one vehicle. But I think the chief would do some changings there. But everyone has a unit. Most are good, but 4 of them are at 194,000 miles. So what we ask for is that you would authorize the resolution so that we can make application to the Finance Authority for a potential loan using our police department gross receipt tax.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, any discussion? Okay, just to reiterate, so they're getting paid for by the police department's GRT funds.
That'd be correct.
So there's no new taxes,
No new tax.
no funding from any other source, and the police department's self-sufficient in that regard.
That's correct, Mayor. And I would also point out, we have set aside in this year's budget, 200,000 from that tax, right, which we have is for the police department renovation. So, those are earmarked for that this year. And then these units probably wouldn't come into payment until the new budget cycle. It'll take a little while to get through everything. So we would have effectively $200,000 in revenues that we were using for a project that we don't need. And so that's our vision, is that we would kind of move those funds there. So.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
All right. Any other discussion? Having none, I'll entertain a motion.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, make a motion to approve resolution number 2925/26, authorizing and approving the submission of a completed application for financial assistance and project approval to the New Mexico Finance Authority.
Second that.
Have a motion and a second, Ms. Doris?
Honorable Destiny Mitchell.
Aye.
Honorable Angel Hauptner.
Aye.
Honorable Amanda Forster.
Aye.
Honorable Walker.
Carried unanimously. Item H3, discussion action, resolution number 30/2526, authorizing and approving the submission of a completed application for financial assistance and project approval to the New Mexico Finance Authority. Next one.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the commission. A similar process, and so in discovery and through the last conference that we were at, Assistant Manager Alvarez was in a presentation by the New Mexico Finance Authority where they indicated they could fund short-term projects as well. So under our USDA grants that we have, what we've identified as WISP 1 and WISP 2, the USDA has required that we get 2 interim loans, a pre-construction loan, which could be used for the plan and the development, and then an interim construction loan that matches the amount of the loan that ultimately the USDA will finance for us. And what they've asked us to do is go to a local bank and negotiate with that local bank for terms and rates. The city has done so on both of those loans, and Bank of the Southwest is the provider of those interim loans, and then what I would call the construction loan. With WISP 2, we have yet to place that loan into production. With using the New Mexico Finance Authority, we have an opportunity to reduce our rate from 5%. So Bank of the Southwest gave us a very favorable rate within the current rate term conditions, right? Most people are paying 7 to 9, but we're going to qualify under the New Mexico Finance Authorities. Tier C qualifies for $150,000 at a 0% rate. That's what makes the street sweeper advantageous. It's what makes the police department cars, and the same thing here. So what we're asking is the resolution that would allow us to make an application where we could borrow the construction loan portion of the USDA loan, and instead of work with Bank of the Southwest, we would work with the New Mexico Finance Authority and effectively save somewhere between 1.5 and 2 points in interest for a short term, right? This loan will last about 18 months. And the Finance Authority has given us concurrence. They like the loan, they like the structure, they like the short term, and there would be no prepayment penalty. So effectively, it could save us a couple $100,000 that then goes into the project, right? USDA funds, we are allowed to use those for repayment of the interest. So anywhere we can save a few dollars, those dollars go back to the ground. So applaud Tracy's efforts to find this particular process. And then, so again, we're asking for concurrence to apply for this loan.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that presentation. Makes sense. Right? Any discussion, commissioners?
Makes sense.
I'm good. I was gonna make a motion.
Okay.
To approve resolution number 30/2526 as presented.
I'll second.
And can we authorize the city manager to execute applicable documents in conjunction with that.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you.
Honorable Amanda Forster,
Aye.
Honorable Ralph Heffler,
Aye,
Honorable Destiny Mitchell.
Aye.
Honorable Ingo Hopper.
carries unanimous.
Mayor, if I can, just on your last comment, if we're successful with the loan and they approve the loan, it would all come back to the commission. You would have to adopt the documents and provide the loan and purchase the vehicles if that was the way we went. So
Okay.
a few more steps for you to see.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Now we're going to item H4, discussion action resolution number 31, 2526, recognizing the importance of cooperation with federal, state, and law enforcement agencies. Commissioner Fall's not here. We heard the comments from our public this morning. Do we have any comments or discussion from our commission?
I'd like to hear from Mitchell.
Chief?
Mayor Pro Tem Commissioners, good morning again. When I spoke to Mary Jo, when she had talked about wanting to do this, ICE was not brought up. You know, one of the major federal entities that we work with have control over the river. BOR is a big entity that we work with, and an entity that we would need to continue to work with once recreation opportunities open and enforcement needs to be done on the river, you know, and so that was one of the things we'd spoken about. She was coming from a place where she wanted her legacy to be that, you know, she supported law enforcement. Her son works for federal wildlife, and so she had spoken about a situation where maybe there was an exotic animal unlawfully kept somewhere that we would be able to go and assist them. And so we currently collaborate with all federal agencies. I was talking to Commissioner Forster over the weekend that we were on the phone with the service rangers. They were doing checks on a missing juvenile that checking the campground to see if they could make contact with them. And so there's always going to be a collaboration, as there always is. But we, as a truth and consequences police department, we always operate within the confines of the state constitution and the state laws. You know, there's no, we can't go beyond those scopes. So we're restricted. We can't ask immigration status. You know, we don't ever get involved with anything like that. And so just to make that clear, that we do already work with them and continue to work with them. And so I appreciate the community coming out and they're passionate about the topic. And I know on the national stage, ICE is prominent, and that's one of the major discussions. And so this resolution really doesn't change anything in the way we currently do things. And I think to please both sides, I think it'd be a good idea if just to withdraw it altogether, and we'll just continue working business as usual.
Yeah, and I have a point that might support what you're saying, because here's something else that I was thinking about when I was listening to the public comment. I was hearing the phrase collaborative efforts. I remember when we adopted the policies and procedures several months ago. I remember the big point you and I were raising was those policies actually were the result of a collaborative effort between us and several law enforcement agencies.
Yes, sir.
And I think in the policies and procedures, even some provisions in there talk about cooperation with other agencies.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
So my thinking was we already addressed the issue.
So I have a question. What does this resolution give you that you don't already have?
It doesn't change anything. We work with the DA for the take back, the drug take back, and turn that over to them. I mean, it changes nothing really. We can operate now.
As I see it, Attorney Rubin, we have four options. We can approve. We can vote no. We can table it. Can we withdraw it?
Withdraw. I'm trying to think, how is that different than voting it down?
Because we just don't want.
I was just gonna say, I don't want to kick the can down the road, you know, so that we have to reface this thing down the road because we tabled it. I'd rather just get this thing over with. I don't think there's an appetite right now to approve or disapprove this thing. I think I'll just regret even having it on the agenda, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I'm not saying that, okay, go ahead, yeah.
Mayor, if I may, just rules of procedure might provide an avenue too for it to die. Right?
Right.
Robert's rules would allow, if
Just don't make a
it doesn't get a motion to potentially
Lax, if
There you
you
go.
guys
If you
do.
take no action,
take no action, that is a fifth opportunity that you would have, that there was no action taken.
Great idea.
Forgot about that. So
we've done that before, yeah, take them action.
And I just want to point out that Commissioner Fall in no way, shape or form wanted that to go to where we heard this morning, in no shape or form. Her son is as Chief said, is a federal game warden, and she was just wanting to show that as her going out, wanting to show support for our law enforcement. And that the rest of there's 85 agencies that we possibly can work with. When I say we, I mean you, not me. And I think she just wanted to show support in that we support our chief in working with all those agencies, and we hope that he would offer support if they needed it in our community. In no way, shape, or form did she ever want that to go the way it was portrayed this way. So I just want to also say that. And voting yes, it's not going to do anything because he already, that he can work with any of those things. It's not giving him any extra power. Yeah, so.
Any further discussion? Having none, is there a motion regarding resolution 31-25-26?
Just
There's no motion.
There's no action, yeah.
Having none, this fails to pass. And what was the right terminology?
it just lack of motion.
Fails to pass for lack of a motion.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Or it's just dying. Right?
Yeah. All right,
Dies, lack of motion.
let's move on to new business. Item 1, discussion action variance request for 915 Poplar Street, requesting allowance for a 10-foot setback for a carport. Ms. Alvarez.
Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners. So the applicant is located at 915 Poplar Street, and they would like to build a carport. That would area is the R1, does require a 25-foot setback per our municipal code. To set it back 10 feet from their property line. A drive-by of the area does show that there has been allowances for that in the past, maybe under past commissioner, potentially past building inspector. You have in your packet, the P&Z packet. One of the pictures does show like a stone fence within that packet. That carport would be behind that stone fence, so it still would be within their property line. The applicant is here in attendance. We did have the public hearing at the P&Z meeting on December 8th. You've got a copy of the draft minutes highlighted. Opponents or proponents, and the board did recommend approval unanimously. So with that, I can stand for questions, or as I said, applicants here if we have questions.
You, commissioners, any questions?
You know, that looks like a very nice house, and a carport would be a great addition. So with that, I'll make a motion to approve the variance request for 915 Popular Street.
Second, Stars.
Honorable Ingo Hoffman.
Aye.
Honorable Delphine Mitchell.
Aye.
Honorable Amanda Forster.
Aye.
Honorable Watson.
Aye. Very unanimous. Item I2, discussion action. Conditional use permit and variance request 1901 B South Broadway. Assistant City Manager Albert.
Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners. This one's a little bit different. I'm going to separate it kind of in two explanations. So the applicant is applying for a conditional use permit to open a business that would allow for storage of wrecked or dismantled vehicles. The conditional use permit is a requirement, required process through our municipal code in order to operate that type of business in that area. The second part of their request is a variance request. The variance that they're requesting is twofold. One of the kind of a temporary variance part of our code in that conditional use permit says that type of business has to have a building. They haven't built the building yet, that is planned to do so. So they're asking for kind of a temporary variance to store vehicles there until they get the building built, and then a permanent variance to allow more than 5 vehicles outside that building. Here again, we have the applicants in attendance. It did go by public hearing. No opponents or proponents were at the planning and zoning meeting on December 8th, and our board did recommend approval. You've got a copy of the P&Z packet, the draft minutes, and with that, we'll stand for any questions.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions?
I have a question. Because of the vehicles and is the plan to fence in the area? So
Yes,
the
that's part of
vehicle,
the part of the
Okay.
code and it'll be fenced in, yes.
that was my only concern, that you can't see it then from the road. Okay.
And if you look at your map, it kind of gives you an indication where this is located.
Yeah.
It seems like it's off the beaten path to some degree and
Makes sense.
in an area that it shouldn't affect negatively anyway, so. Okay, any further discussion?
And conditional use, does it come back every year?
It's reviewed, yeah,
Oh.
annually, and it doesn't transfer with
The
a new
building.
owner or anything. That's applicable only to the applicant.
I'll make a motion to approve the conditional use permit and various requests for 1901 B South Broadway.
No second.
Motion and a second, Doris.
Honorable Destiny Mitchell.
Aye.
Honorable Amanda Forster.
Aye.
Honorable Ralph
Aye.
Hessler. Honorable Inga.
Carries unanimously.
And for my own nosiness, are we going to be working on vehicles or doing a wrecker company or?
I'll let the applicant come down and speak on their business.
Thank you.
Mayor, Chair, Commissioners, thanks for the opportunity. My name is Carrie Fresquez. I'm here with my partner, Nick, who has 25 years experience in auto mechanics, diesel mechanics, power sports, and automotive restoration.
So the
So,
answer is yes.
so yes, it will be
Because I
a,
saw him shaking his head no.
it will be a special, our dream is to have a specialty restoration business. So it won't be the oil change kind of a business, but it'll be restoring vehicles. It takes a little bit of dismantled vehicles to, put one together. So it's like, sounds good. Thank you. Appreciate your support.
Thank you.
I just wanted to know what new business.
So that motion carried, right? So we're on to item I3, discussion 4.
We moved
Oh,
I3
right, right,
to.
yeah. Yes, we moved item I3 down to executive session since it is real property. I4, discussion action approval of purchase requisitions over $60,000. So Pete,
Good morning again, commissioners, commissioners, everybody.
Everybody's.
These are on the agenda as items that we're going to be using our go bonds for. They're to continue the corrective actions with the water department. And I have the 3 different locations listed: the Cherry Lane, Well 2, and the vacuum line project. And I'll defer to Gary if there's any other clarification we might need for these.
yes, sir, go ahead.
Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the commission, the 3 projects in front of you, again, Cherry Lane had been identified when I came on board as a area that they've done significant repairs, and so they want to replace that line. So we've got an estimate to do so. Well 2, as you know, we've been talking about Well 2 for a minute. That's the one that had had an old pump on the top, and then the building was really bad, and we made it. We put together a program to move the well to the underground, get rid of the building and set it up. When we got into the well, the casing was significantly rusted, 75 years old. So we had an analysis done to find out if we could put a liner in that well and save that well. And in fact, our well contractor has agreed that that's the solution. So what you have in front of you is you did approve us spending $180,000 on this particular project, but we're back to you to tell you that we're going to spend $160 in just to configured plan for that particular well. That's well two. And then the final one is, again, we're trying to get some work done on the back station. The line on Hagen Street has been identified as a major problem in that area. And so this would allow us to replace the line on Hagen. We're still waiting for the engineer's approval so that we can then replace the pits. We're going to not replace the pits. We're going to repair the 51 pits and then complete the work inside the back station. Hopefully the 3 will give us a better, more reliable, stable back system. So we're ready to start that work. So with that, I'll stand for questions with those projects.
Okay, thank you.
And again, these are the GO bonds. This is what we want to do to be as transparent as we can on how we're spending those dollars.
Any questions, concerns?
I guess it would just be, it's on called Smithco, so just as needed, is that like?
Like, there was an RFP done, so they're on contract, so these are via task orders, so
Okay,
they're
gotcha.
gotcha. Follow that.
Yes.
You want 3 different motions or do you want to do them all as one?
Can we do them all as one?
That's good.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase requisitions over 60,000 for the Cherry Lane project, revised quote for well 2, and the vacuum line project for on call to Smithco using our GO bonds.
I'll second that. Honorable Amanda Forsberg,
Aye.
Honorable Ralph Hessler, Honorable Ingo Hopner, Honorable Dustin. Aye.
Ms. Torres, can you text Mr. Shipley?
I did.
Do the right, thank you, ma'am. All right. Let's move on to item 5, discussion action MOU between the City of Truth or Consequences and Sierra County Flood Director, Manager Whitehead.
Mayor Pro Tem, members of the commission, I am going to defer a little bit to Assistant Manager Alvarez to kind of brief you on this particular item, and then we'll both stand for questions.
Thank you. Director Whitehead. So as you guys know, in 2020, the city of TRC experienced a large flood that kind of prompted us to look at what we could do with the Cantrell Dam. We applied for some funding, and in 2021, we were awarded funding for plan and design for the Cantrell Dam. We had multiple meetings pertaining to that. We got with the entities within Sierra County and Village of Williamsburg. That plan was brought to the commission by the engineers a couple of times with some changes as recommended. Ultimately, in the end, the commission had voted to approve the plan, which was to breach the dam and do some down channel improvements. So our next step was to go out with funding for the construction of that. As you guys recently approved, we were awarded the funding from Water Trust Board for just over $8 million, which does require both a $800,000 loan component as well as an $800,000 cash match. We expect final loan grant agreements on that project probably by the end of January. So in the meantime, upon City Manager Whitehead coming in and a little bit previous to that as well with our mayor, we had some discussions with getting some assistance from our flood director. And I think with that, I'll turn it right over to City Manager Whitehead.
Again, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the commission, the Office of the Flood Commissioner is a county-wide office. The mayor and staff have negotiated with the flood director, and he has committed $400,000 of flood funds to participate in this particular project. He's asked that we develop and request these funds through an MOU, right? Government to government would authorize the process. The 2 stipulations the flood director, flood commissioner has asked is that the funds only be used for construction on the project. And so we've identified that through item 1, where the funds have to be used specifically for that. And then as opposed to just writing us a check for 400, he requested that we submit for reimbursements just like we would any other grant. So we will submit pay requests, pay on the same pay form, the same pay style. So with that, the flood director concurs with the MOU, and we would request authorization. And then this will lock up these funds for this project, for the CAC from the director.
Thank you. All right, any discussion? All right. I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the MOU between the City of Truth and Consequences and Sierra County Flood Director as
I second. Yeah, Ms. Torres.
Honorable Amanda Forster,
Aye.
Honorable Ingo Hopner,
Aye.
Honorable Ralph Hessler,
Aye.
Honorable Dustin.
Aye.
We're unanimous.
Mayor, can we amend that to make sure that we authorize city manager
Yes,
as well as all of you? I think I highlighted on the agenda form,
Oh,
we did.
just to make sure that if there are any changes that are required at some point, there's the authority to do so.
That will bring it back to us.
Thank you.
Oh, and then the motion to authorize city manager Gary Whitehead to work with city attorney and mayor to finalize and execute documents.
I do not approve. I'm just.
You want roll call again?
No, I think that. All right, that concludes our regular agenda. I'd like to have a motion to move into executive session, which consists of two items. One, is threatened and pending litigation, Ron Penn versus the City of Future Consequences pursuant to 10-15-187. And item two, discussion action, contract lease agreement extension between the City of Future Consequences and Town Septic. Do we have that motion?
So move.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second.
Honorable Dustin Mitchell. Honorable Amanda Forrester.
Aye.
Honorable Ralph F.
Aye.
Honorable Ingo Hoffman.
That motion carries. It is now 11:25 and we'll start the executive session immediately upon clearing the room.
I'll look at my phone, in my car.
Thank you, sir. Jazz, if you'd like to, again, if you're not sworn in.
You're not